You ever sit there, full of ideas, full of ambition, full of dreams, and yet do absolutely nothing? You have plans. You have goals. Sometimes you even feel bursts of motivation, but they fade fast. The next day you're back to procrastinating, back to self-loathing, back to feeling like something is deeply wrong with you. But what if you're not just lazy? What if something far more subconscious is at play? What if there's a part of you that wants to stay stuck? A part that fears success more than it fears failure? Sounds crazy, until you dive into the work of Carl Jung. Jung didn't see laziness as a flaw of character. He saw it as a symptom, a surface-level sign that something in your psyche is unresolved. Today we're going to dig into the brutal truth he exposed, and how philosophy, psychology, and self-awareness can break the cycle. Watch to the end. This might explain your entire life. 1. The shadow, the part of you that keeps you paralyzed. Carl Jung's most profound idea was the concept of the shadow. It's the dark, hidden part of your psyche, where you store everything about yourself you don't want to face, your insecurities, your fears, your anger, your envy, but also your power, your raw potential. When you say, "I want to change," but then do nothing, you're not weak. You're at war, a silent battle between your conscious goals and your unconscious fears. The shadow thrives on avoidance. It whispers that your dreams are too big, too risky, too likely to fail. And so, you stay stuck. Most people don't change because they don't know how to confront this hidden part of themselves. Jung warned us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. In other words, you'll keep telling yourself you're just lazy. But really, you're being ruled by the part of you you've never faced. 2. The comfortable cage of potential. Potential is a beautiful word, until it becomes a prison. So many of us are addicted to the idea of who we could be. We fantasize about our future success, our dream life, the person we might become. But those fantasies often become a substitute for real action. Jungian psychology tells us that the ego, the part of your mind that wants to look good, stay safe, and avoid pain, loves potential. It lets you feel special without risking failure. But here's the dark truth. Potential means you haven't done anything yet. The longer you idolize your potential, the less likely you are to ever realize it. It becomes your identity. I could be great, if only what? If only you weren't scared. If only you actually started. Jung believed that individuation, the path to wholeness, only begins when we let go of who we could be and start becoming who we are now, with all our flaws, fears, and first steps. 3. Why you fear success more than failure. It sounds strange, but many people fear success more than they fear failure. Think about it. If you succeed, everything changes. Your identity, your responsibilities, the expectations people have of you. You can no longer hide behind someday. Carl Jung believed this fear is tied to what he called the self, the complete version of who you're meant to become. The path to the self isn't comfortable. It demands that you shed your current self, the small self, the one that plays safe. And that's terrifying. We stay stuck not because we're weak, but because we sense on some level that success would require a death, the death of who we are now. And like Jung said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. It's not that you're lazy, it's that you're avoiding a transformation that feels like dying. But that death, That's the beginning of rebirth. 4. Philosophy and the unexamined life. Socrates said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Jung would have agreed. In fact, much of his work is rooted in ancient philosophical questions. Who am I? Why do I act against my own interests? Why do I suffer without knowing why? When you refuse to examine your inner world, you become a puppet of it. Your fear, your trauma, your suppressed desires all begin to make decisions for you. You tell yourself stories, "I'll do it when I'm ready. I just need to be more motivated." But those stories aren't yours. They're the whispers of your shadow. Nietzsche added another layer. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. If you don't know your why, your real one, you'll never find the energy to push through the discomfort of growth. Jung's philosophy? Until you dig deep enough to meet the darkest parts of yourself, you'll keep making the same mistakes and calling it fate. 5. The real meaning of discipline: order from chaos. Most people think they lack discipline, but Jung would say they lack integration. When your conscious mind and unconscious mind are in conflict, no amount of productivity hacks will save you. You'll take one step forward and sabotage yourself 2 steps back. Discipline isn't just about habits, it's about harmony, bringing order to the chaos inside of you. Jung's idea of individuation, the psychological process of becoming whole, means learning to see your fear, your laziness, your resistance, and choosing to act anyway. In myth, the hero always ventures into the underworld to bring back wisdom. You must do the same. Face your inner dragons, confront your self-sabotage, and choose action in the face of fear. That's real discipline. Not perfection, not motivation, but choosing your highest self, moment by moment, no matter how messy. 6. From fragmentation to wholeness: how to actually change. Carl Jung believed that most people are not suffering from external circumstances, but from inner fragmentation. You might feel like you're falling apart because, in many ways, you are. Your conscious desires pull you one way, while your unconscious fears pull you another. Your ambition says, "Let's move forward," but your fear whispers, "It's safer here." The result? Paralysis, and then shame about that paralysis. But this fragmentation isn't a personal failure. It's the default state of most modern minds. We've been taught to suppress parts of ourselves to fit in, to be productive, to be agreeable, to be normal. Over time, we exile these parts: the lazy self, the angry self, the creative self, the chaotic self. But Jung warned that what we suppress doesn't disappear. It grows stronger in the dark. True change then doesn't come from fixing or deleting parts of yourself. It comes from integration, from taking those fragments, your shadow traits, and weaving them back into your story. Wholeness doesn't mean being perfect. It means being honest. Honest about your limitations, your struggles, your desires, your wounds. That's how real self-respect is built. Not from becoming flawless, but from learning to walk beside the parts of you used to run from. Jung called this journey individuation, becoming the person you were always meant to be, not by addition, but by integration. The lazy part of you might be trying to protect you from burnout. The procrastinator might be your inner perfectionist, afraid to start because the result won't be perfect. The self-doubter may have once been a child who failed and was ridiculed and never healed. Every part of you exists for a reason, and unless you sit with those parts, listen to them, and understand what they're guarding, they will continue to sabotage you. You'll go years, even decades, living beneath your potential, not because you lacked ambition, but because you lacked inner harmony. Healing that fragmentation begins with radical self-honesty, journaling, shadow work, therapy, even meditation, not as fixes, but as invitations to dialogue with the parts of yourself you've ignored. When the inner war stops, your energy returns, your clarity returns, your courage returns, and change, which once felt impossible, becomes not just probable, but inevitable. The call to courage: will you do the inner work? You've made it this far, and that tells me something. You're ready. Ready to stop blaming laziness. Ready to stop avoiding your shadow. Ready to become the person your soul knows you're meant to be. Carl Jung didn't offer comfort, he offered truth. And truth isn't always easy, but it is liberating. This is your invitation, not to hustle harder, but to turn inward, to examine your life, to integrate your shadow, to rise, not as a perfect version of yourself, but as a whole one. If this message spoke to something deep in you, don't let it fade. Like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, begin. Even if it's small, even if it's messy, especially if it's terrifying, the only way out is in.